as you know, I mean, in the guitar thing, I sort of explained how the Gretsch evolved, and it was the thing. The only thing I'd add in addition to that was when I finally got a full-time gig in a band. I joined a band called Theatre of Hate. Coincidentally, the singer, unbeknownst to me, played a Gretsch. He played a single anniversary, a green one with the pickup by the neck, and he asked me when he came to my house before the audition for the band. He asked me, he said, like, what guitar? And at the time I was playing a Les Paul Junior. Couldn't be more opposite. It was a cherry double cutaway, bladder bladder, because I couldn't get a yellow one like Johnny Thunders. And I'd had Les Pauls and this and that. Was my primary guitar was a Les Paul Custom, white, Steve Jones. I was into all that, and I ended up, and I said, well, if I got a gig in a band full time, I really want to get a Gretsch and I want to get a White Falcon. And then he revealed to me that he played a Gretsch, and I kind of basically was a shoe-in for the gig because I had the right haircut, and I pretty much got the gig. And that's how I met Ian, because Ian's band, the Southern Death Cult, opened for Theatre of Hate. So there was a little bit of kind of copacetic kind of energy there where things just flowed along, like my thinking of what I wanted to do with the guitar matched this band's ambitions and the singer's personal taste. And anyway, so the amp thing, I always for many years had a problem getting a good. I could never get a guitar sound that I really liked out of one amp. I always wanted to either sound like, to me, one of the best guitar sounds ever is Never Mind the Bollocks, the guitar sound on that album, and that was, a very rare Fender Twin that sounds like a Marshall and a Les Paul. And to me, I could never quite get that sound. I'd never achieve it. I had a Fender Twin, didn't sound like that one. Didn't want to use a Marshall because in the punk days, if you look around at the stuff, not many people use Marshalls in the bands because they were considered metal amps or rock in the kind of the rock that we were trying to get rid of kind of thing. So for a while there, Marshalls were very low on the list of priorities for players. You'd use them if you had to, but really you would look for anything else. So there was many different amps used, Fenders. I had an Ampeg combo, VT22. I had a very bad Fender Twin, and I forget what else, some other stuff. And in the end, when I joined Theatre of Hate, I was using a Fender Twin, and combos were kind of cooler than amps and cabinets. That was for like heavy rock guys, and we didn't want to kind of deal with that. We were indie, and we really were indie. We were indie bands. So that's a whole other side story. We used to make our own records and sell them, and use money from gigs to manufacture, and it was a whole deal with Theatre of Hate and initially with the Cult. We were kind of an indie band, but so anyway. Amp-wise, I never really found anything. And then one day, I don't know how, I can't remember when, but I got exposed to a JC120 Roland. And I know for a fact the first ever Cult show, which was actually a death cult show, was in a club in Norway called Rats Club. It was a biker punk club. And Ian still got the flyer. And we flew in from the UK and with a guitar, and we borrowed the amps, and they gave us a Roland. It was actually a JC 160, which is a 410. I'll never forget the amp, and there was a Marshall, and I used the two together. And that combination of two amps by amping has pretty much been something I've done for my whole career. And still up to today, I really have used some combination of a Marshall and the Roland. The Roland obviously does the high-end, clean, the beginning of She Soul Sanctuary, that type of sound, a few effects, delays, a few things that I came up with. That kind of clean pick sound. The same sound that's also at the beginning of like Firewoman, or more recently the song Rise from the 2001 record. It's a theme of mine, that clear, high-picked stuff. But I discovered also, added to those two amps, I slotted one in the middle, which is like a 2x12 open back combo. And I've been using over the years, mostly matchless. I got a DC30 in 93 when there weren't many bespoke, like kind of bespoke amps, boutique amps, and fell in love with it. And I've used that. And obviously working with Bob Rock as a producer, he has an incredible collection of stuff and all like rare amps and all this stuff. And And so, you know, that was always a help to me. So that was basically, it's been my setup: 3 amps, a Roland for certain things, a 2x12 combo. And recently, within the last few days, I actually just I'm giving the Matchless a bit of a rest, and I've moved on to Vox AC30s. Because of the tech I've got's amazing. This guy, Tom, he's like constantly trying to get me a better tone, and I'm kind of into that. So we reckon that the AC30 is kind of kicking at the moment. So at this point, I've switched over to Vox. So for the foreseeable future, I've added a Vox. So, and then people always ask me like, "Wow, you get this really great like guitar sound, like you know, from a Matchless." I'm like, "Well, there are Marshalls behind the thing. You just don't see them. They're in a rack. The Marshall cabinets have Marshall coming out of them. You know, they're there for a reason. They're not there to look pretty." You know, but people don't realise that I actually use them. But again, I've also recently changed. I'm now using Friedman amps. I retired my old Marshalls. I think they've given me stellar service since '88, and they're just starting to get a bit baggy and tired. And the modifications done to them are starting to break out, because they were like JCM 800s, which I thought were terrible in the 80s, but that's what we bought because we got new money. And I had them modified and they sounded great. And now they're just getting like, I think I need to put them out to pasture. And they've actually, funnily enough, on 2 Sex Pistols tours too. Steve Jones used them in '96 and 2003. That live album from '96, the Sex Pistols, that's my guitar amp. Those are my Marshalls, my cabinets. So I was kind of honoured, and it's kind of come full circle, interestingly enough, that a guy in a band who like changed my life, having seen them in 1976, you know, ended up using my stuff, and like the whole full circle kind of thing. It's kind of trippy for me, you know, that because I'm still basically a fan deep down, you know, and so, you know, and it's kind of trippy that, you know, guys who are now good friends of mine, you know, members of the Stray Cats and the Pistols, the guys I hang out with socially, just been huge parts of my, and I don't hang out with them from that, but it's just the way it's turned out. But it's kind of funny. So that's kind of where I'm at with amps. I still have never found one amp that can do anything, but I will be honest, if I was just doing the electric album, I could definitely do the whole thing pretty much with one Marshall type amp, one 4x12 and an overdrive pedal and a Les Paul, because that's basically what I had in the studio with Rick Rubin. So just purely for electric, which half of this set is the electric album, I could get away with it, but for the Gretsch and stuff, it's more, you know, a lot more complex.